we'll start the discussion, and we hope we'll have an interesting discussion. The issue these days is so live and hot that it's nice to be, that's why we thought we should be talking about these issues. So we have on the panel, and we keep that order, but we hope we'll be talking like a conversation. I'll just flag off some issues, and then we have Karthick, Narayanan, who's a linguist and has worked in JNU for his PhD, but he's now working with Unreal Techie and is working on data collection and trying to see how new technologies can help in the work. Apoorvanand will come after that, Department of Hindi, Delhi University, and I don't think I need to say more. And Ayesha Kidwai, Professor Ayesha Kidwai is at the Center for Linguistics in JNU. So we start with how do we understand? I mean, I work in education, and I was at Delhi University in the Faculty of Education. And I just want to go back many decades when I started working in education. And what is this three-language formula? Because I taught this for many years in Delhi University. And it's a formula, obviously. So it's not, and I've always said we don't have a language policy. So why don't we have a language policy? And where did this formula come from? So these are some of the issues that we'll all be touching on. But I'll just give a small vignette of my first sort of work in Hindi in Madhya Pradesh. We were working in the science program. At that time we had this little window to develop science curricula in the Hoshangabad science teaching program. And I had noticed that we were trying our best we were contesting, of course, the official language, the official terminology, and we were trying to work with children's language. But what was children's language? So we were writing in Hindi, we were trying, and especially for class 6, 7, 8, by that time, there was a lot of abstraction that was coming into science. So we realized that, instead of trying to deal with the issue of language, because all of us were scientists, we were scientists from across the country, and so we were writing much less. Because anyway, it was a program in which you did with your hands, you did experiments, you did things, so we had textbooks and all, which was more inviting people to think, look around, and that was very, very vibrant. But after working on that for some years, I was working and trying to see where is it that the issues were coming up. And I realized that even in Delhi, when I was making observations in a school in Srinivaspuri, in a municipal school, in class 3, a teacher was very active. She was doing some things with children. They were supposedly studying the nervous system, which no one at class 3 should be doing. And so the teacher had put coins in children's hands and blindfolded them. So there was a lot of excitement and activity. And then suddenly she asked one girl, she identified the coin properly. So she asked her, कि तुमने कैसे बताया कि ये क्या कौन सा है सिक्का? So she said, मस्तिष्क तक संदेश पहुंचाने वाली संवेदनशील तंत्रिकाओं द्वारा. And I knew that this is how textbooks were being written, because that's our battle, that's what we were doing. But a child suddenly answers this. But what was worse was the teacher was so thrilled. And the teacher looked at her and then looked at me and said, ये बहुत bright लड़की है, ये scientist बनेगी. So, it was dawning on me there was something seriously wrong. And I was then looking at the history of language of science, which was fascinating. Because science also was very expressive. When you read some of the earlier scientists, they wrote in a very expressive way. Galileo, when he first sees something, you see expression, curiosity, doubt, guesswork, in the language. And then how, when they were battling with power and battling with authority and battling with the church and all that, they started saying, no, we're very objective. So everything became very disengaged. The language became very disengaged and, very transactional, and there was no me in it. So that was the battle that science was fighting, and we know these battles continue. आज भी हम एक अलग तरह का battle देख रहे हैं, अलग संघर्ष है भाषा को लेके. पर जो उस टाइम पे हुआ वो सीधा टेक्स्ट बुक्स में आ रहा था, और उसका क्या मतलब था? वो एक्चुअली नर्वस सिस्टम के बारे में बच्ची छू के कुछ देख रही है, पर वो ये नहीं कह रही मैंने छू के पता किया. ऐसा क्यों? सो ये क्या दबाव है हमारे पढ़ाने की भाषा में भी? और ये हिंदी थी पर हिंदी नहीं भी थी. ये क्या भाषा थी? क्योंकि कोई ये भाषा नहीं बोलता है. सो इसलिए द क्वेश्चंस ऑफ व्हाट इज दिस फॉर्मूला डूइंग टू अस in states where children don't speak Hindi but ostensibly speak Hindi, वहाँ भी किस तरह की पुस्तकें. और फिर हम जब लिखते हैं और हम कहना चाहते हैं कि भाई पेट में दर्द हो रही है, तो हमको ऑफिशियली कहा जाता था, इवन दो वी वर वर्किंग विद गवर्नमेंट्स, पेट नहीं कहिए उदर कहिए. So I said उदर में तो किसी को दर्द नहीं होती है. So I mean literally, and these are battles 40 years old, 50 years old, it's not कि अभी का है. तो ये battles चलते आ रहे हैं. और अब अगर ये जो तमिलनाडु के सवाल पर कि हम 2 लैंग्वेज फॉर्मूला ही कर रहे हैं, इट्स वेरी क्रूशल, क्योंकि दोबारा से ये बातें उठ के आ रही है. अगेन वी आर क्वेश्चनिंग एंड रीथिंकिंग, why don't we have a language policy? And what is this formula done? We know क्यों आया था. We know it came because of national integrity, a major issue then in the 50s and in the 60s. जब policy बनी तब भी people were not sure, but it was saying कि हाँ, Hindi speaking states will take one preferably South Indian language from South India, and the North will and the South will take these. So ये सब हुआ था, but the child was not there, learning process was not there, education and pedagogy was never in the limelight when all this was being discussed. So it was a political issue, it was a formula which had a certain purpose. तो ये सब कहने के बाद सिर्फ एक ये सवाल सामने आता है कि अब हम पिछले 40 साल में बहुत काम हुआ है लिंग्विस्टिक्स में, लर्निंग में, कॉग्निशन में, एंड वी नो मच मोर नाउ देन वी न्यू देन about how children learn languages, how children, and that it's different what they speak. और जो बच्चे बोलते हैं वो सिर्फ बोलने के लिए नहीं है. एक भाषा जो बच्चों की है, the first language or mother tongue, वो दुनिया को देखते हैं उसमें. That's crucial. We always forget that. We think it's only communication. How do they look at the world? How do they establish relationships? And if their language has so many different words for one particular thing, the soil, a plant, or snow or something, it means they can look at that thing with the same nuances that their language and their language speakers have done. So there's knowledge there. What is it? And now when we say that अब हम उनको reading and writing कैसे करते हैं, what is that process? What is the process of reading and writing in the first language? And I see friends who worked on that. And then a second language, completely different process. So our classrooms today, with so much knowledge, our classrooms today don't work this way. They still treat languages, any language, first, second, third, fourth, anything as a subject. And they still treat it with like they treat any other subject. So that मस्तिष्क तक पहुंचाने वाली kind of riddle of when you don't know what you're talking, but you have to say this, there's a grammar, there's a structure, there's a certain way you have to say things. अभी भी वही चलता है. क्यों? So that is the question that we'll be asking, and I will now say that just one thing, that when Tamil Nadu says that it's a question of NEP, it's being imposed on us, the language is being imposed on us, we know there's much more. It's not just the language. NEP is imposing much more. It's centralizing, and it's actually going against the federalism of the constitution, the country. What is the role of a state in working in education? And NEP, like Tamil Nadu says, is saying do have 50% children in vocational education. They're saying why? Why should we do that? And many other things. So we'll not go into that, but I'm just saying that the issue is very important that it's come up and that it is now being debated at every level. So I'll request Karthick to come from here, and he has experience in Tamil Nadu. He's also working with smaller minor languages in Tamil Nadu, but we will request you to start off the discussion. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Anita, Rampal, and thank you the rest of the panelists. So, thank you, Sami. Before I start into the history of how Tamil Nadu has placed languages in education, let me clear out one thing: what is the Tamil Nadu's language policy is, or language in education policy is. It is also a formula, not a policy per se. Now, Tamil Nadu formula clearly says that there will be two languages in the schools. Part A languages, which is going to be regional language, bracket, or mother tongue, where it is different from the regional language. So if your regional language is different from your mother tongue, then you will read in mother tongue, not in the regional language. Then part B is English or any other non-Indian language. So this sort of an idea comes from a long-standing position of the Tamil Nadu politics and Dravidian politics there. And then they have been very clear as early as 1937 that there will be one language, that is either your mother language, your mother tongue, or your regional language, with an addition to an European language that will open the door to the larger world. Now, this we all know is in stark contrast to the three language formula, where we have one more language which is added, which would be for Tamil Nadu Hindi, as it is dictated in the policy, or some other South Indian language or a modern Indian language, preferably in the third language formula. Now, I'm not going to talk more about the third language formula. I just cited this to show you. To show that how it is different from the three language formula. So the part A and part B are the only two languages. Now, how does it translate it? How does this two part A, part B translates to everyday learning in school? Is that there are certain schools in Tamil Nadu which are completely run in a non-Tamil medium instruction. So these are Urdu medium schools, Telugu, Kannada, and Malayalam schools. These are also the four top linguistic minorities in Tamil Nadu. So if you look at Tamil Nadu's population, 88% of Tamil Nadu's population is linguistic minority. 88% of Tamil Nadu's population is Tamil speaking. The rest are not Tamil speaking population. The biggest among them are, exact data. So we have 5.87% of people reporting in 2011 census as Telugu as their mother tongue. We have 1.78% of speakers who report Kannada to be a mother tongue. We have 1.75 who report Urdu to be their mother tongue, and we have 1% of population that reports Malayalam to be their mother tongue. So these languages, Telugu, Kannada, Urdu, and Malayalam, are the languages of the Tamil Nadu schools. Now, the Tamil Nadu schools here, I mean of the government schools. There are several government-run schools across Tamil Nadu where the medium of instruction is one of these four languages and not Tamil. Up until 2006, most of these kids did not learn any Tamil in the school because part A was regional language or mother tongue, and part B was English or any other non-Indian language. So these kids went through the school without learning Tamil, and even now, as of 2024, these kids are not forced to learn Tamil. That's what I want to make it clear. Now, apart from this, there are quite a few more languages like Gujarati, Marathi, English, Bengali, Odia, which each have more than 10,000 speakers in Tamil Nadu. But these are the four languages that are in school. Now, what do I mean when they are in school? Tamil Nadu makes a commitment to produce textbooks, not just subject textbooks, but also medium textbooks for them. So, subject mathematics, science, and social science textbooks are also produced in these, and teachers are also appointed. So I'm going to give you the total strength of teachers sanctioned. So for Tamil, the total strength of teachers sanctioned is 10,218. For other languages, the total strength of teachers sanctioned is 178. It's because the number of schools are very small. But it looks like this. So there are 270 Urdu medium schools. There are some 400 Telugu medium schools across Tamil Nadu. I can get into more details of this data when we take it probably for the questions. And then there are quite a few Malayalam medium schools and Kannada medium schools in the border areas of the Tamil Nadu boundary. So there has not been there's been also a sort of a backlog in the vacancies in these schools as well. Now in 2024, these backlogs are cleared and some more additional appointments are being made. But the observation in 2022 is that as of 2022, the backlog vacancy for teaching other languages were at 44%. As of 2024, there are more vacancies that has been created, more than the backlog vacancies too. Some 134 other language teachers are being recruited in Tamil Nadu schools, and along with Tamil language teachers as well, because there was heavy backlog in both Tamil language teachers and in other language teachers as well in school. Now, this is the state of education in Tamil Nadu. There are some certain issues with Tamil Learning Act. People are fighting against it in the court. But as of now, none of the Tamil Learning Act is not compulsory for the minority students or people who are registered in the minority schools. So this is the status of two-language formula in Tamil Nadu. But this two-language formula, as many might have known, comes from the 1968 resolution from the State Assembly, the first DMK government, but it has a long history. So we have as early as 1937 that there has been agitation against the imposition of Hindi, not against Hindi. So I want to make it very clear. It is against the imposition of Hindi on Tamil Nadu school students. So the 1938 marks a very important juncture in Tamil politics, because that's when the Madras or Tamil Nadu Women Congress comes together and Tamil Nadu Women Conference comes together and passes a resolution saying that Tamil should be taught in Tamil schools and no other languages should be forced on us. So this resolution comes along with several other resolutions from the conference, but you will also know that this resolution, by placing it along things like intercaste marriage, anti-caste agitation, what the Women's Conference in Tamil Nadu in 1938 has done is put the anti-Hindi imposition in par with Tamil Nadu's self-respect movement. So anti-caste struggle and self-respect movement together. So there are three wings of it: self-respect movement, anti-caste agitation, and anti-Hindi imposition movement. So these three things then form sort of a battleground which has connected a lot of the populations in Tamil Nadu, which are completely different when it comes to ideologies. So there are Tamil nationalists who sympathize with it. There are strong Saivite. In a sense, Saivism a very strong Hindu fold within Tamil Nadu. Even they back it, and then they also back the anti-caste agendas too. So this is sort of the front line of Tamil politics. So these three are the front line of the Tamil politics. So then, as I pointed out, this two-language formula is not just a 1968 reaction to the Chief Minister's Conference, but it is also a sort of a historical event. So that's the status of Tamil teaching, like mother tongue education teaching in Tamil Nadu. So I think I will end now here. Dr. Anita?
I'll give you one very interesting example of when the new textbooks were being made in NCRT. Rim and people are here who were involved with that. So the idea was, of course, that textbook writers are not poets and writers and everything. So we'll take from what literature exists, children's literature, and develop lessons around that. And once the manuscripts were ready, because I was chairing the different committees, there was a teleconference with many different states and Kendriya Vidyalayas in different states and CBSE schools. And I distinctly remember that we were very proud with the language in which there was an attempt to bring in what is understood as multilingualism. Because you were writing a Hindi text, of course, the Hindi that you were writing was different. You're trying to write children's Hindi and what people, but you were also using texts and poems from other languages and trying to tell children, can you make sense? Or ask them, what do you call this in your language? The textbook asked the child, so it was interacting with the child and saying that your language will obviously have a different word for this or a different concept. So when we had this discussion and these were being presented and different states were talking, I distinctly remember, and was maybe 2006. The Rajasthan teachers were not happy at all. ये भाषा बिल्कुल ठीक नहीं है, ये हिंदी नहीं है, it's not proper Hindi, it's not good Hindi, and what are you writing in these textbooks? But the Tamil Nadu teachers were thrilled. So, I distinctly remember KB teachers and some CBSE schools saying, our children are loving this. So I'm just telling you, what did it mean? What was being done with the language, even our textbook, which normally is not very interactive, but you're making an effort, and we did that. But these were the two different viewpoints that we were getting, and we know what the histories are. What is this purist bhasha kya honi chahiye? And Tamil Nadu, jahan hum keh rahe hain ki wo Hindi opposition hai, they were saying our children are loving this. So I'm just, this one thing, and one more thing I'd like to flag before I come to the Hindi wala. And that is that the role of English. What is happening now is, it's again really very worrying. It doesn't come out in the papers much, but this centralizing process is completely taking over. For instance, Puducherry, because it's a union territory, they've always used Tamil books. And they get books, they are in touch with Tamil Nadu, and they use that. Overnight, and I got a letter from teachers' organizations there, because we were invited to present some issues before the Parliamentary Standing Committee recently. I got a letter saying overnight Puducherry has been shifted into CBSE. And because you're weaning them away from Tamil Nadu, this, and and we've been made English medium. So what did this mean? Why does a central government take this decision overnight and say English medium? Teachers saying, we are worried, our children are worried, what are we going to do? And ye kaise ho sakta hai? And the teachers are telling me that not only this, but we are being made to give false information on the CBSE website, because we don't have the facilities required in a CBSE affiliation. जो playground के requirements है, जो classrooms के requirements है, हमारे नहीं है, और हम as teachers हमें झूठ बुलवाया जा रहा है. So I'm just saying that these are the kinds of things that are happening to centralize the whole issue. Even the idea of these exemplar schools, which states now are being told, abhi tak Navodaya Vidyalaya and Kendriya Vidyalaya hain, they've been renamed as PM Shri Vidyalaya. Again, a very questionable decision, and why, what is the logic? But now many more from different states are being given this fund, that will give you a lot of fun, but they'll be CBSE. And then obviously they'll be English medium. Similarly, the states are doing that. Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, they're like it's PM Shri, they're CM Rise schools. And they are now making them English medium. Jharkhand, I think, did that. Overnight, पहले भी ऐसे होता था, जम्मू एंड कश्मीर में overnight English medium. Chhattisgarh, newly formed state, I remember the chief minister telling us in a meeting, when I go to a school, I don't want my child to say good morning. मुझे greet गोंडी में नहीं करे, good morning बोले. So overnight English medium. तो अब ये जो हो रहा है, this exemplar schools are being funded heavily. What comes under Samagra Shiksha is 3 lakhs per school, वहाँ से 98 lakhs. So heavy funding for these so-called exemplar schools, and this is what Kerala and Tamil Nadu and West Bengal and Punjab to some point were resisting. That 60% you will give, but 40% we'll have to give. And also you will take them away from us. You will just take away our state board schools and you will put them under CBSE. Under what decision? No one has acquiesced to that. So the arm twisting that started in Tamil Nadu was on this. That they of course had opposed the policy, but also they were not being given funds because aapne wo MOU sign nahi kiya hai. This is extra constitutional. There is no finance bill which says that they have to sign this to be able to get funds from the center. So I'm saying there's a lot that is happening which is extra constitutional, which is not really linguistic, but still we must know what it is. And English then, what is the role? We'll come to that later. So Apoorvanand, please.
I thought that Ayesha was to go after
No.
Karthick.
We can
come in again.
Yes. Again and again.
बहुत शुक्रिया. I'm going to impose Hindi on all of you. Because I also have to justify my position. I teach Hindi. तो कार्तिक ने अभी जो बात कही उससे ये बात बहुत साफ जाहिर है कि तमिलनाडु, और कार्तिक ने वो बात नहीं कही लेकिन वह भी हमें मालूम है कि तमिलनाडु में हिंदी पढ़ने पर कोई रोक नहीं है। तमिलनाडु में जैसा वहाँ के मंत्रियों ने अभी बतलाया कि दक्षिण भारत हिंदी प्रचारणी सभा का मुख्यालय चेन्नई में है और उसके कई केंद्र तमिलनाडु में हैं, और जिसे भी हिंदी पढ़नी हो वह तमिलनाडु में इत्मीनान से हिंदी पढ़ सकता है। तमिलनाडु सरकार का कहना यह है कि आप हमें इसके लिए मजबूर ना करें कि हम अपना पैसा हिंदी पढ़ने पर लगाएं। हम किसी को हिंदी पढ़ने से रोक नहीं रहे हैं। और तमिलनाडु में ये जो दक्षिण भारत हिंदी प्रचारणी सभा है, इसके इम्तहान को देने वाले और पास करने वाले हज़ारों हज़ार की संख्या में हैं। तो इसलिए यह जो प्रचार एक किया जा रहा है, इसको समझ लेना बहुत ज़रूरी है कि कोई ममानियत नहीं है, कोई मनाही नहीं है, आप तमिलनाडु में हिंदी पढ़ सकते हैं और तमिलनाडु की सरकार उसके ख़िलाफ़ कोई आदेश, कोई कानून नहीं ला रही कि आप ना पढ़ें। दूसरी बात जो तमिलनाडु सरकार कह रही है, और वह बात बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है, उसको समझना बहुत ज़रूरी है और उन लोगों के लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है जो हिंदी के पैरोकार हैं और ख़ासकर हिंदी की वकालत करते हैं यह कह के कि वह पूरे देश को जोड़ सकती है। तमिलनाडु का कहना है कि हिंदी जब भी दूसरी जगह जाती है तो वह दरअसल एक प्रशासकीय औजार के रूप में जाती है, एज एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव टूल। तो राजभाषा समितियाँ, दूसरी तमाम समितियाँ वे हिंदी को लागू करने जाती हैं और उनकी सबसे बड़ी फ़िक्र ये रहती है कि आप फाइलें हिंदी में चल रही हैं कि नहीं। तो वो इसकी जांच करते हैं कि आपकी नोटिंग हिंदी में दी जा रही है कि नहीं। और राजभाषा समितियों का जब दौरा होता है अलग अलग राज्यों में तो हड़कंप मच जाता है और उनको 5 सितारा होटलों में ठहराया जाता है और उनकी खासी खातिर तवज्जो होती है। तो हिंदी जब भी पहुंचती है राज्यों में तो इस रूप में पहुंचती है, वो एक शासन करने वाली भाषा के रूप में पहुंचती है, वो राजभाषा के रूप में पहुंचती है, वो कहीं भी भाषा के रूप में नहीं पहुंचती है। और इसलिए हिंदी को लेकर जो एक प्रतिरोध है राज्यों का, वो इस वजह से है कि आप दरअसल हिंदी के ज़रिए जिस एक चीज़ को लाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं वह उत्तर भारतीय कल्पना है भारत की, वह सिर्फ हिंदी नहीं है। कि हिंदी का मतलब है हिंदी के साथ एक पूरी समझ, और वह समझ और कहीं की नहीं है, वह उत्तर प्रदेश में बनी हुई समझ है, यहाँ तक कि बिहार में भी नहीं, मध्य प्रदेश में भी नहीं, वो उत्तर प्रदेश की बनी हुई समझ है। इस समझ को आप पूरे भारत पर लागू कर देना चाहते हैं कि भारत है क्या। और ये हिंदी की ज़्यादातर किताबों से भी मालूम पड़ता है, अलावा उन किताबों को अगर हम छोड़ दें जो 2005 के राष्ट्रीय पाठ्यचर्या परिवर्तन के दौरान बनाई गई, जिनमें कोशिश की गई कि हिंदी की किताबें बहुभाषिकता का मल्टीलिंगुअलिज्म को रिप्रेजेंट करें, और उसको लेकर एक तरह का प्रतिरोध खुद हिंदी इलाकों में था। मैं आपको सिर्फ एक उदाहरण बतला सकता हूँ। वह उदाहरण NCERT में प्रक्रिया शुरू होने के पहले SCERT दिल्ली की प्रक्रिया का है, जो जानकी राजन ने शुरू की थी, और वो हालांकि कुछ ज़्यादा जल्दी में किताबें बनाई गई थी, तकरीबन मुझे लगता है 4-5 या 6 महीने में, लेकिन उसका एक वाक़या मुझे अभी तक याद रह गया है, 2 वाक़ये बल्कि। एक जो संभवतः समाज विज्ञान की किताब थी जो बनाई गई थी, जिसमें निरंतर और दूसरे लोग शामिल थे, और उन्होंने एक प्रयोग किया था हिंदी में। एक पाठ में उन्होंने, जिसे आप यूनिवर्सल जेंडर कहते हैं, वो स्त्रीलिंग कर दिया था। नागरिक आती है, व्यक्ति आती है, और जब फीडबैक वर्कशॉप होने लगी तो अध्यापकों ने हंगामा कर दिया कि आपको व्याकरण ही नहीं मालूम है। और हमने उनसे कहा कि नागरिक आ क्यों नहीं सकती है, वो सैकड़ों सालों से आ रहा है, तो अगर इस बार आ ही रही हो तो आपको क्या एतराज़ हो सकता है, यह व्यक्ति आ क्यों नहीं सकती है। तो यह एक दिमाग है। और दूसरा, हिंदी कैसे पढ़ाई जाए, तो हमने एक कविता शामिल की थी जो सर्वेश्वर दयाल सक्सेना की कविता थी। आओ एक लगाएं चक्कर, फिर उस चक्कर में एक चक्कर, फिर उस चक्कर में एक चक्कर, और आखिर में था और बैठ जाएं थक कर। तो शिक्षकों ने इसको लेकर भी बहुत ऐतराज़ जाहिर किया। उन्होंने कहा कि इससे तो कोई शिक्षा ही नहीं मिलती है, ये तो एक बेकार का चक्कर लगा रहे हैं छात्र और अंत में थक कर बैठ जाते हैं, तो इससे कोई शिक्षा नहीं मिलती है। तो आप इससे हिंदी की किताबों की जो जहनियत है उसका कुछ अंदाज कर सकते हैं कि वो क्या जहनियत है। लेकिन अभी हम इस पर बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, हम बात कर रहे हैं हिंदी पर, और हिंदी शिक्षा में किस प्रकार आती है उस पर, और वह त्रिभाषा फार्मूला जिसको कहा जाता है, उस त्रिभाषा फार्मूला के भीतर कैसे आती है, उस पर आगे बात करेंगे आयशा और हम तमाम लोग की। और शुरू में प्रोफेसर अनीता रामपाल ने कहा कि त्रिभाषा सूत्र दरअसल एक सूत्र है, एक फार्मूला है, वो एक नीति नहीं है। तो जो बात भारत के शिक्षा मंत्री ने संसद के पटल पर कही और दूसरी जगह कही, वो पूरी तरह असत्य है। झूठ कहना ज़रा कड़ा लगता है, इसलिए मैं असत्य कह रहा हूँ कि वह असत्य है। झूठ कह देने पर हो सकता है किसी को अपमान मालूम पड़े कि मुझे झूठा कहा जा रहा है। तो असत्य इसलिए है कि ऐसा कोई संवैधानिक प्रावधान नहीं है। संविधान में भाषा का जिक्र जहाँ आता है वहाँ कहीं इसे भाषा नीति के रूप में नहीं लिखा गया है कि त्रिभाषा सूत्र हर राज्य को लागू करना है। तो पहली बात ये। दूसरे की ये फॉर्मूला था, और जैसा अनीता कह रही थी, यह आज़ादी के बाद इस बात पर विचार करते समय लागू किया था कि भारत को एक कैसे किया जाए, क्योंकि वो बहुभाषी है और उस वक्त एकता की चिंता सबसे ज़्यादा थी। तो जो शब्द सबसे ज़्यादा प्रचलन में था वो था इंटीग्रेशन, और वो शब्द चला हम लोग जब स्कूल में थे तब तक वो शब्द काफ़ी लोकप्रिय था, नेशनल इंटीग्रेशन। मैं सिवान में था, एक छोटे से कस्बे में, लेकिन हम लोगों को 8वीं क्लास में मिज़ोरम ले जाया गया था एज पार्ट ऑफ दिस नेशनल इंटीग्रेशन ड्राइव, कि आप वहाँ जाके 1 महीना रहें और करें। तो इरादा यह था त्रिभाषा सूत्र में कि इंटीग्रेट किया जाएगा। सुझाव दिया गया था कि आप एक ज़ुबान अपनी पढ़ें, एक जो दुनिया से जोड़ने वाली हो, और एक कोई दूसरी भारतीय भाषा पढ़ लें। इस त्रिभाषा सूत्र को काफ़ी गंभीरता से लिया दक्षिण भारत के राज्यों ने, जैसे कर्नाटक ने या केरला ने। तो आप वहाँ जाएंगे, हिंदी जानने वालों की संख्या बहुत ज़्यादा है इन सारे राज्यों में। तमिलनाडु की बात कर चुके हैं कार्तिक, मैं उसको दोहरा नहीं रहा हूँ, किस वजह से विरोध किया, क्या किया। त्रिभाषा सूत्र को अगर किसी ने सबसे ज़्यादा असफल किया, नाकामयाब किया, तो वो हिंदी इलाकों ने किया। जहाँ त्रिभाषा सूत्र में उन्होंने हिंदी पढ़ाई, टूटी फूटी अंग्रेज़ी पढ़ाई, और फिर संस्कृत पढ़ा दी। मुझे बचपन की याद है कि 2 भाषाएं बताई जाती थी, एक संस्कृत और एक फारसी। तो जो हमारे पंडित जी थे और मौलवी साहब थे, वो दोनों काफ़ी रहमदिली से नंबर दिया करते थे। तो इसलिए हम संस्कृत सीखने के लिए नहीं लेते थे, नंबर के लिए लेते थे। और संस्कृत रही है इतने दिनों तक। तो आज जो सारे लोग संस्कृत को लेकर बहुत ज़्यादा चिंतित हैं और कहते हैं कि संस्कृत ही पढ़ाई जाती रही, लेकिन संस्कृत में सिर्फ नंबर दिए गए। तो अगर आप 50 सालों का, 60 सालों का इतिहास देखेंगे, तो त्रिभाषा सूत्र को सबसे ज़्यादा विफल किया उत्तर भारत के राज्यों ने। बिहार, उत्तर प्रदेश, मध्य प्रदेश, राजस्थान, हिमाचल प्रदेश, इन्होंने उसको विफल कर दिया। उसका जो इरादा था उसको भी नाकामयाब कर दिया। उसका नतीजा क्या हुआ कि आपके यहाँ ना तो कोई तमिल शिक्षक है, ना कोई मलयालम शिक्षक है, ना कोई उसको तो छोड़ दे, उत्तर प्रदेश की ज़ुबान उर्दू थी, जो उत्तर प्रदेश की ज़ुबान है, उर्दू को उत्तर प्रदेश से निकाला दे दिया, देश निकाला दिया। और अभी आपने उत्तर प्रदेश के मुख्यमंत्री का बयान सुना है जो उन्होंने विधानसभा में दिया है कि उर्दू पढ़ के करना क्या है, क्या मौलवी बनना है उर्दू पढ़ के। ये उत्तर प्रदेश के मुख्यमंत्री का बयान है, उस जगह की जहां उर्दू पनपी है, पली बढ़ी है। तो जब आप उर्दू को देश निकाला दे सकते हैं, तो दूसरी ज़ुबानों के साथ आपका क्या रवैया होगा, इस बात को सारे लोग जान सकते हैं। हिंदी को लेकर जो चिंता है, और ये मैं आखिरी बात कह रहा हूँ, उसकी वजह है, जब बार बार शिक्षा मंत्री कहते हैं नहीं हम हिंदी आरोपित नहीं कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उसकी पर्याप्त वजह है क्योंकि अगर आप पिछले 10 वर्षों में भाषाओं को लेकर इस सरकार के बर्ताव को देखेंगे और आप ये देखें सरकार के रवैये को हम कैसे जान सकते हैं। सरकार के रवैये को जानने का सबसे अच्छा तरीका है, जिस अंग्रेजी में जो कहावत है उसको हिंदी कर दें, तो जो बोलते हो उस पर पैसा लगाओ, है ना। तो तुम जो बोलते हो उस पर पैसा कितना देते हो, तो आपको ये पता चलेगा हिंदी पर कितना पैसा खर्चा किया जा रहा है। संयुक्त राष्ट्र संघ की भाषा बनाने के लिए हिंदी पर कितना खर्चा किया जा रहा है। पूरी दुनिया में दूतावासों को यह हुक्म दिया गया है कि वे हिंदी के लिए अलग प्रकोष्ठ बनाएं। उसके लिए बहालियां होंगी, संयुक्त सचिव स्तर की बहालियां होंगी। सिर्फ हिंदी के लिए क्यों? डायस्पोरा क्या सिर्फ हिंदी वालों का है? मलयालम वालों का नहीं है, यहाँ तक कि गुजराती वालों का नहीं है। बेचारे गुजराती भी बाहर बहुत रहते हैं। तो हाँ, तो यह एक पूरा खर्चा इसका। When the Home Minister went to Guwahati, he said that the link language for the northeastern states be Hindi. What made him say so? And then he announced that 22,000 teachers will be appointed in Hindi. तो आप पैसा कहाँ लगा रहे हो? पैसा किसको दे रहे हैं? और अगर दूसरी भाषाएं देख रही हैं कि आप क्या कर रहे हैं। लास्टली दिल्ली आकाशवाणी से प्रसारण होता था सारी भाषाओं का। इस सरकार ने 5 साल पहले हिंदी, उर्दू और अंग्रेजी को छोड़कर तमाम बाकी भाषाओं को उनके राज्यों में भेज दिया। तो व्हाट आर यू डूइंग इफेक्टिवली? यू आर टेलिंग Tamilians that Tamil is a regional language. Bangla is a regional language. It's not a national language. Malayalam is a regional language. तर्क दिया गया कि बेहतर टैलेंट्स वहाँ मिलेंगे, but that was not the idea. It was very symbolic. These languages being broadcast from Delhi has a different symbolic meaning, and being moved to or relegated to the regions has a different message. So the fear that Hindi evokes, और मैं हिंदी वाला हूँ, तो मैं नहीं चाहता हूँ कि मुझसे आप डरें, लेकिन जो हिंदी डराती है मैं समझ पाता हूँ कि वो हिंदी डराती क्यों है, और उस पर हम लोग बाद में आएंगे कि हिंदी खुद हिंदी इलाकों में कैसे डराती है, लेकिन उस पर हम बाद में बात करेंगे।
Thank you. I will now request Ayesha to please carry on the discussion.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Karthick and Apoorvanand. Listening to this, I wonder, so there is always, when I look at the stories and hear the stories of the imposition of Hindi, perhaps there should be a feeling in me that there is that some feeling of guilt, because I am a Hindi speaker, but I am also the speaker of a language which I never owned when I was a child, which is Urdu. And these are different linguistic identities. I don't think that I never owned. I was afraid of speaking it. If people, because when I was young, I would go to school and then people would say something in Urdu, and there was no way to say mere pet mein dard hai. Udar was certainly not an option in any of the languages that I knew. But so I think that when we have to ask, where do we make formulas what they are for? Are these formulas for the people to enable and strengthen them? Now, if we look at the Constitution, it had one kind of formula. Its formula was, and that is now relegated with all the amendments and the fights in the Constituent Assembly debates, it was relegated to Article 350A, which said education in the mother tongue. So education was associated with the mother tongue, at least in the primary stage. It didn't say don't learn any other language. There was an article which was the site of much fight and debate, which was Hindi in the Devanagari script. So language was reduced not to its spoken form, or its spoken form was not seen in allowed to be written. It was language in its written form. So we script, and if you remember, then in the UP assembly a few years ago, there was a big debate about will that person read the text out, written in the Perso-Arabic script or not. So this is one ingredient. There was, I think, an original idea of what language would be in India, what linguistic rights would be, and that's now left to maybe 2 or 3 small provisions in the Constitution. Article 351 tells you that, I think it's 351, that a promotion of Hindi as a language, right, as the national language, the formation of the Rajbhasha Committee, the interpretation of the 8th schedule, where there are no national languages in India, there were only languages. Because there was one intent of the Constitution. And I want to ask to think about, where does this come from? Why did the question of language, almost as soon as it was discussed in the Constituent Assembly, why did it get so muddied? So now there is some kind of pyramid, which is, official languages are somehow the most powerful language. Was that the intent of the Constitution? When we said education in the mother tongue, it looked like it was for the child. But medium of instructions debates happened in the first parliament and then have continued thereafter. And the medium of instruction seems to be the question of language teaching. Now, so when the points that Anita made earlier, that we are not thinking about the first language, teaching it as language. Well, actually no language in India is taught as language until it is too late for the child. It is because if the child is to learn English or to learn Hindi or to learn Tamil, right, in the central scheme of things, it isn't the case that you're thinking of just teaching that person the language. It's because our vision for centuries of education has been one where rote learning, spewing back linguistic form without meaning. Our religions do that. So the languages which are no longer alive amongst us are the languages we use to celebrate, to name, to ritualize. And education is also conceived of that. Now, whatever the differences were in the 1947, what differences there were in 68, as Anita said, we have learned tremendous amounts more. So I think the question is do we need formulas for education at all? Because what is the reality? So states will have primary policies which will look very good. As Karthick said, 88% of the speakers, the language speakers in Tamil schools are Tamil speakers, but 12% are not. So is the best strategy one that makes different schools for 12%? Right? So that you don't have to learn this language, you can learn your own language. Is that the correct appreciation of what multilingualism is in our society? And I won't even attempt this now, but if I were to take a round, I don't think there's any of you who will speak only 2 languages. We will have some other language. And if I were to count the languages that I speak, there would be functionally specified. So some things I listen to music in, something I watch series in, one things I write emails in, there will be. So that actually in our notion of multilingualism and that notion of that there is only one mother tongue is just completely wrong. And it has been wrong for centuries in India actually, for thousands of years, because Indians have been multilingual. But the colonial hangover perhaps, or some desire to assert groups, that led us to think that we will give education in one mother tongue. And only if we make it a medium of instruction, and if it is the official language, that these two can enter into, that there is a relationship that has of imposition, that the child must learn these languages for it to be education at all. Now, frankly, this just reeks of a Brahminical or a very elite upper caste driven kind of education. And from the bottom, and some of us have reactions that ally with the dominating classes, and some that said, oh, we like this Hindi. This Hindi sounds like the Hindi I speak. And we like this Tamil because it actually has different caste-lect varieties. Or we like this Bangla because there are many. So it's our language policy has been really, I think, not about languages at all. And it has definitely not been about children. It has not been about a multilingual reality. The truth of the matter is that for the last, at least 20, 30 years, there have been systematic studies that show that whatever you're giving children education in the regional language. I think about 50,000 children were tested in studies between 2012 and 2018. And a class 5 student cannot read the textbook of a class 2. That is the reality. That is because there is one medium of instruction which we call language education, but it is by no means thinking about language at all. So I think the first thing we have to ask is so if we know that education in the mother tongue, sitting here in 2025, we should take advantage of this debate about the 3-language formula to ask what exactly is our policy about education right now. All those people who speak Kumaoni identify themselves as Hindi speakers as well. But that doesn't mean that they think that Kumaoni is no different from Hindi. All those who speak Telugu they can be Telugu speakers as well, but they can also be Tamil speakers, they can also be Malayalam speakers. That reality, how do we capture? And I won't take up too much time. There was a lot of things that one could say, but hopefully I want us to discuss this rather than that in this 21st century. Is it not possible that we moved away, we separated the question of teaching language, either first or second, from what are the languages allowed in the classroom? Is it not possible for us to think, because in reality that happens, that more than one language enters the pedagogical route in language, in pedagogy of about any subject, whether it be EBS, or whether it be civics, or that all languages can be included. Because I'm sure that when we sit with our friends and they use some Tamil word and I don't understand, I say, what does it mean? Right? And that's how I learned the word. So is it not possible to think of a multilingual education system which doesn't think that you keep on adding more languages in formulas, or that there is anything in the magical number 3? Because in the magical number, Tamil Nadu says, well, we are looking at outcomes. Our children do much better. 51% what GER you're seeking to get, Tamil Nadu has already got. But this pride also prevents us from going back and saying, is their reading ability, is their reading comprehension better than others? Because what we do know for a fact is that if you are, it depends where you are. So if you are in Totopara in West Bengal, where people, the whole community in the village speaks only Toto, they're very poor people. This is a Tibeto-Berber language. It has got nothing to do with Bangla. It has got nothing to do with Hindi. Now, in that school, if the textbooks are in Bangla, and if the class is held in Bangla, that's just as bad as Hindi being imposed on Tamil Nadu. So in people who are not exposed, children who are not exposed in their homes to a language like Bangla, they perform abysmally. Because they have to actually learn a foreign language to learn the content of what they are being taught. And that is where our policy falls short. So I think that this debate requires us to rethink everything. What would be a sustainable multilingual education model? And that has to, by definition, be federal. It cannot, in fact, it has to be much more than federal. It is not only by linguistic province regions, it is within a state. Because my constitution tells me that that's my right as a mother tongue speaker. So it's that what we have to rework, which means that all this swelling and flatulence about my language being older than yours, well, that's only possible because you were the languages that had powerful elites who would write your histories. There are languages here which are thousands of years old, but they never were in the elite class. If we want to preserve the idea of India as a multilingual country, if we don't want to become like the languages of Europe, which actually through the education system systematically murdered hundreds of worldviews, then we have to stand up for every language and have a policy in education that allows, at least for the primary stage, each language to participate in the classroom, where there is collaboration and mutual respect.
So I'll just take a few things from here. I think one of course that in education, many of us who've been working for some time, we have never used now the word medium of instruction, because we don't like the word instruction and we think education is not instruction, so it's medium of learning, samajh ki bhasha. Even when we were devising the textbooks and the syllabi, it was a different. But what happens, how now there are educators here also, so we'll take this and I hope people will contribute to the discussion, but how do you, for instance, what I have seen in the 90s as part of the National Literacy Program was one example, which was for the first time in the history of education, that materials, primers, everything was being made at the district level. That was the policy. And so the way languages were being used, the kind of material, even though there were state resource centers of adult education, they were not really part of it. And which script to use. So we know that whether it was Santhali, which script you want to use it, whether you're in Bengal or you're in Jharkhand or you're somewhere else, or in the northeast, the Roman script was being used because that is some of them officially use it and others decided they'll use it. So I'm just saying that the kind of flexibility and the creative engagement, and it was not a teacher and a taught, it was really more a voluntary community effort. So it was based at the community, and that is where the entire, and it was not supposed to be just reading alphabets. Clearly it was not that. So that is one thing that I've seen very closely, and I've seen how it worked. But on the other hand, when we come to what the school system does, Kendriya Vidyalaya, one of our best resourced government system, best resource schools, has always taught only two languages, Hindi and English. And the division of those two languages is also really weird. Right from day one, social studies you will do in Hindi, but science and mathematics you will do in English. So children just don't understand what's happening. I mean, I was just messaging to a student of mine who was teaching in Assam, and someone else was in Kendriya Vidyalaya. They said, no, we had only these two languages, there was no regional language, and students had trouble even with Hindi. So social science was also taught in English. अब imagine first class 1, class 2, class 3 में बच्चे आ रहे, क्या मतलब है, और लिखने क्या अपना एक अलग मशक्कत करनी पड़ रही है. It's not just कि आप क्या सुन रहे हो, you can't make sense of it. So this is the decision taken for our best public school, government schools, public resourced, well-resourced schools, which continues. किस basis पे है ये? What does it mean कि central, okay, people, it was meant to be that people will get transferred so they might go somewhere else, but then look at the way the population of students is in that. Maybe some person comes on a transfer or something, but what are we doing to others? It's really against the right of a child. It violates every principle of the child's ability to be learning. And how have we continued to do this? without asking any questions. And now, in every government system, in every state, in every school now, they have one English medium because they think that government schools are not popular enough. So you make one section English medium. I know what that means. I know the kind of struggles, the kind of branding that happens. So this child is bright, has gone into the English medium, this child is not. Again, the kind of problems that we are creating. So I think I can understand spoken language, but writing, and I have colleagues here who have worked on writing, and what does it mean, and how can we open up this debate of thinking about what should be the languages of learning, and how do we manage it with teachers, with schools. We know, I mean, for instance, Tamil Nadu, recently the minister was saying that we have 1,000 schools in Tamil Nadu who are CBSE. So they are Kendriya Vidyalaya or they have no Tamil teacher. They only have Hindi and English. So again, the question is that, what is this formula is not working clearly, but how do we do it? And any one of us wants to come in, and then will have a discussion with it.
Maybe we can respond to.
Okay.
Let's do the question.
Yeah. Okay. So please, it's open now, and please introduce yourself.
Papers. So you have told one word, mushakkat, and also explained that society. अभी क्या हो रहा है कि बच्चा 3 साल का होता है, उसके ऊपर साइंस का प्रेशर, बच्चा डॉक्टर बनेगा या इंजीनियर बनेगा, वो प्रेशर है. ये प्रेशर नहीं है कि अच्छा इंसान बनेगा या अच्छा लैंग्वेज ओरेटर होगा या किसी चीज़ को अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन कर पाएगा. उसको साइंस रटवा के आगे बढ़ाना है. ठीक है. आजकल आप देखते होंगे मेल में, टेक्स्ट में जितना शॉर्ट से शॉर्टेस्ट एब्रिविएशन होता होगा वो लिखते हैं. So recently I visited to United States because my daughter is studying in New York, and when she was growing up in Delhi Public School, Mathura Road, I did the same thing what I have done. I did not allow her to pressurize. My son went to medical school, but daughter told, no, I don't want to go medical school. So she herself went and get a psychometric analysis, and she told me I want to learn Sanskrit. And this was a shock of my life, and here she has taken the Sanskrit language. And I was called from Rutgers, New Jersey, and for an interview and asked, how come you are Muslim? And she knows this Sanskrit, Hindi, English, and she also knows Urdu and Arabic. How did you allow your child in the current era? So this was her interest. But currently in our society,
So what is your question?
so it's a crux of the story is in short that the parents should be aware about what is the importance of language. Currently they are not understanding, hence the child grows up with the pressure because they don't understand the subject properly because they are not good in language.
That's true, but we are not really only looking at it individually in terms of what parents think. We're looking at it in larger systemic way, and I think we'd like the discussion to go there. Yeah,
Individuality and society, this should go.
that's true, but how do we shape opinions? That is the important thing. You're right, but how do we shape? Jean, what is anyone else, please? Yeah. Please introduce.
I'm Amrita, and I've been in early childhood development, and I've been with mobile creches. So my observation while working with Anganwadis and some remote areas in different rural areas in India is that there is a certain class factor that has gone and been associated with English. So how are we, when we are talking about all these formulas, it's right that, I've been to these Anganwadis where the parents are saying that if you don't teach English, we are going to pull out our child from this. So how do we build this whole awareness that that's the language, the mother tongue is the first language that a child should be, conversing in, not teaching or learning, I wouldn't say that. But that's the child way of communicating with people around. And I'll just tell you a small anecdote that happened with me. I was in a remote village in Uttarakhand, and we were just walking down, and we asked, there was a school, so we asked that grandmother was there. We said, "Ye bachcha school mein jata hai?" She said, "Haan ji." So we said, "Kya hai ye?" So she said, "आंगनवाड़ी में आप क्यों नहीं भेजते हो?" Yeah, this is what I asked. She said, "वहाँ हिंदी पढ़ाते हैं ना." तो मैंने कहा, "ये क्या अंग्रेजी मीडियम?" She said, "नहीं जी, ये इंग्लिश स्कूल है." So you know that association in the country, the entire country, how do we, solve that? We can make as many formulas, but what is it that we can do for that?
I mean, the formulas always keep a space for English, right? I mean, that is the nature of the formula. But I think that, one has to see, I think if we would stop thinking of ourselves as monolinguals and think of us as multilingual, so that we have everybody manages a repertoire of 2 or 3 languages. That is the way that's the norm here. This is not true in monolingual believing countries, but we are not monolingual believing. Now, in this world, one language gets functionally specialized for education, or at least for, let's say, science and technology. And at least that is how it is presented, because we then let that functional specialization continue. Right? We don't do anything to displace the power of English, but then we ask the people who are living in the thrall of its power to say, you must give it up, we'll still continue speaking it. We can't do that. We can't do that. But so if you actually allowed all languages of the child into the classroom, so there's a phenomenon which is called translanguaging, that you use, either you use it to encourage the learning of English, but what you will do is develop all the languages. अभी जो हो रहा है कि कमीशन बैठी हुई है और वो टेक्निकल टर्मिनोलॉजी बनाने की कोशिश करी है हिंदी में. अब उर्दू को तो आपने बहुत दिन से बेदखल कर दिया है, तो उर्दू के वर्ड फॉर्मेशन आप इस्तेमाल नहीं करते हैं, तो तत्सम ही तत्सम, राइट, विच इज जस्ट इम्पॉसिबल टू अंडरस्टैंड, राइट. सो देन यू विल गेट व्हाटएवर यू हैड फॉर नर्व्स एंड न्यूरल्जिया. सो आई थिंक दैट जब आपकी पॉलिसी बदलेंगी तो ये क्रेज भी बदलेगा. बट इट इज ट्रू राइट नाउ कि अंग्रेजी से नौकरी मिलती है, हिंदी से भी मिलती है, तमिल से भी मिलती है. प्रॉब्लम है संथाली से नहीं मिलती, प्रॉब्लम है टोटो से नहीं मिलती. पर अगर टोटो में टीचर ट्रेनिंग होगा तो नहीं होगी क्या? सो दैट इज व्हाट आई थिंक वी मीन बाय अ पॉलिसी, दैट यू वांट दीज लैंग्वेजेस टू बी टॉट.
It should be individual's right, right?
Of course it should be an individual's right, but what do we pay the state so much money for?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually in the context of the National Education Policy 2020, what it says is it looks at the child, and in order to make it easy for the child to learn, they are emphasizing mother tongue. Now all of us Indians, we are already exposed from our childhood to more than one language. I don't know my mother tongue, though I can speak it, but I never say it's my mother tongue. I say my mother's tongue is Gujarati, but my first language is English. Because I was born and raised in Myanmar, I had to study Myanmar, Burmese. But when I came to India, no use of that. So I have picked up a number of languages, but English has become my first language, and Hindi is my second language, Bengali is my third language, my mother's tongue is my fourth language. And then Urdu is the 5th language. So I had no problem, because what we learned at CIFL, I mean now it's English and Foreign Languages in Hyderabad, is that every child can easily pick up 5 languages. It depends upon the environment.
You see, I think that we should make a very big...
The formula is that mother tongue up to class 5. That's the policy.
That is very deceptive. Every child can learn 5 languages is a big problem. They can't. So
they can't learn it in school, certainly.
I mean, languages to read and write is
telling about 6 languages.
No, that's not.
No, that's not true.
That's not
Exception, maybe.
It's not exception. Please try and understand. Learning to speak is one thing. Learning to read and write is one thing. But the way you do it in your earlier years, you can't learn 6 languages together. Like the policy says, 3 languages they'll learn by class 3. No, that cannot happen. So if we mix up all these things. What does it mean to learn and read and
Mother
write?
tongue as a medium of instruction for the
But that
first-
is absolutely not true.
When you were born, when you were living
Karthik
that.
wants to say something.
So I think we have to be clear of what we are using the word first language
Karthik.
and second language.
No, my mother spoke to me in which language?
Whatever she said was your first language. So, yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, Karthik.
So anyway, it was a bit of confusion, but today.
And shall I just give one point here on the reality of the language, mother tongues in schools? Okay. So the point here that NEP supports mother tongue, the word mother tongue exists. The word mother tongue exists along with regional language, state language, regional language / mother tongue, regional language / state languages. Now, what does that mean for a administrator? Either of this. They don't read it as the one that the child speaks, but the one that they are convenient with. So what has happened in states like Haryana, a very recent phenomena, that you don't find Haryanavi at all in the schools. I am not wrong. You can find it. It's mother tongue. Am I right? And it should be, if NEP is to be strictly followed and interpreted in the favor of the child, it should be interpreted as Haryanavi at least until class 5. Is it true? Now, unfortunately, that is not happening. The order came for Haryana's new languages in the schools very recently, and you can go and check it out. It does not happen. Haryanavi is not there. Now, number of languages that are taught as subject in CBSE languages, right? I'm not talking about number of languages being taught as a medium of learning. We only know it is English and Hindi. And Dr. Rampal also clearly said that there is a weird formula over there. Of the 121 languages that have been listed in census, we only have 29 languages listed as a language in the CBSE. This is the one that is controlled by the center. The center which asked Tamil Nadu to introduce Tamil medium in MBBS and in engineering education. Probably doesn't know that we have had it since 2006, in fact 2005, but has not introduced CBSE books in Tamil medium yet. So that is the truth. And when you go to the 12th, you have 4 languages from the 10th subjects are missing: Rai, Gurung, Tamang and Sherpa. These are all again tribal languages or spoken by majority tribal people. So only 29 languages are even subjects in class 12. This is central board, and central board schools are spread all over. As Dr. Apoorvanand pointed out, the number of Tamil teachers, there are very few Tamil teachers in CBSE schools in India, the CBSE schools in Tamil Nadu. Not even, some of the schools don't even allow for a Tamil to be taught in them, KVs especially. So this is a state. So mother tongue, yes, but where is it? That's my question.
Also, I want to bring us back to the question of, for instance, 25 years back, Kerala did its, and there was an education commission, and it did a survey of their own state of education and learning. And they said, even though in terms of provision we are doing better than any other state, there's a teacher in every class, unlike other states. We have textbooks, everything. I mean, enrollment was almost in the 90% or something. Why is it that children who speak and think so beautifully in Malayalam are not reading and writing Malayalam? That was Keral's own question to itself. And that is important for us to understand. I have seen how even in class 4, class 5, children are asked to write something. Maybe, they've been to a fair or something like that. They just write, I saw Anna, I saw an elephant, I saw this, I saw that. So they're writing only one sentence. They'll write 10 times, 10 different things, only one sentence. Why? So that was the question. That's what I'm saying. We have to see, what does learning to read and write mean? Let's not just make these fancy statements of, oh, so and so knows 6 languages, children can learn 5 languages. This was the best state in terms of provisioning, in terms of class, teachers, textbooks. Then they changed their entire, because I know I've been also involved with that, they changed their curriculum, they called it renewal. And that's where they realized that even the Malayalam spoken, they realized no, but the textbook was not even looking at Malayalam that was being spoken in the north of Kerala, for instance. And again, the textbook was this very classicized language, and and the way of teaching it was only correct. You know, what is the correct form? How do you write it? I saw this. That's all. That's all. So that has been through. It's a major churning. There is resistance to that, but it's a major churning. Teachers resist that. They're used to teaching grammar and spellings and meanings the way they do. But I'm saying that's a major hurdle. They've changed that, and we could see now that at least the textbooks they even bring on sensibilities about other languages. So maybe there's something about a Bengali writer or a Bengali story in Malayalam, but I'm saying the way that language is looked at. So let's, in terms of the reading, writing process, and some of our, for instance, Nenata, Mukul is here, some experience that you might have, what is it that you see as the blocks within the education system, and how do you think we can think more openly about it? Yeah, please. Please, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Ma'am, I like to, my name is Karthick. I'm a student of comparative studies and evolution of history. History is about science and non-science. Right. I have to raise two issues here. The first issue is, we always talk, all of us, I mean our leaders especially, and the scholars, wherever they go, national or international forums, they talk about Vasudev Kutumbakam and global village, right? The issue over here is, in order to achieve national and international integration, what steps you suggest we should take in terms of language, right? Language formula, what language formula you suggest for national and international language? Because I lived abroad for 15 years, so that's why I talk international integration as well. Now my second issue is, this is what we're discussing about the formula. Where is the formula which will tackle the national integration and international integration? Then maybe cosmos integration, right? That is the third stage. Now I'm coming to do my last. The second thing, so since time immemorial, people are talking about their own, right? They talk about everyone talk about themselves. Now I want to raise the issue of the tribals world over, and especially of India, right? We got our languages, we got our place of worship. Muslims have 6 lakhs place of worship. Hindus have lakhs and lakhs of places. These people don't have left with any land, no place of worship, no language, nowhere to go, but just vagabonds everywhere. Nobody wants to talk about them. There is no record. They don't have a recorded history. This so-called historian. I call him modern historians. They always are dictated, but by the rulers, and they never recorded it.
Yes, thank you. We get your point, and people are working on that. It's still less. But
not working. What are they getting?
Yes.
Okay.
Keep working, they will never get anything.
Okay.
Everybody wants, I want Urdu, I want mosque, I want this, I want that, I want madrasa, but for them nothing. And they are the boss. They are the master of the subcontinent. They want the master of the subcontinent.
yes,
They are reduced to nothing.
of course, and a lot of studies on economic understanding.
When we talk,
I
we must
think.
take them
Yes.
to God.
Yeah, thank you.
So there's a lot that we have to understand
there's a
from
lady here.
indigenous
Let's-
languages. Mukul and then Varghese. No, someone else. Yeah, sorry. Please introduce yourself.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Vidisha, and presently I'm working on natural language generation at IIIT Hyderabad. So basically, first I would like to comment on Professor Rampal's one thing, that Bengal is giving that resistance. That situation is very quickly changing, very rapidly changing. Most of the West Bengal board schools, even they are giving the option of English medium, and it's due to quote-unquote parental and student pressure. Mostly the Bengali medium sections are empty these days. There's no student. As well as the KVs in West Bengal, they are not offering Bangla in most of the cases. They're not offering Bangla.
That's all over.
So this is one thing. Another thing, I would like to comment on Professor Kidwai's this Totopara and this thing. So in 2019, This is related to my previous work experience. So I went to Bhupati Bolli. This is a village in Purulia, where all the people from Birhor community lives, and there is a community school, junior secondary school, that is up to class 8. And all the students, they come there, they belong from this Birhor community. None of them are allowed to speak or converse in Birhor language in the school premise, even during their midday meal time. Because all the teachers come, either they belong from Bengali community or they belong from Santali community. Now let us look at this not linearized, but the hierarchical order of the language power and status. They are allowed to speak Santali because Santali is in a hierarchically higher position than Birhor. So the school dropout rate is very high just because not only their socio-economic condition, but also they are not getting the option to learn in their mother tongue. Not only that, it's not about picking up many languages by choice, but by imposing that is not an easy task. Also, I would like to add this thing, there's no textbook. The textbook they are being offered is culturally also very different. They are talking about Bangla culture because they are giving the Bengali books, or the Hindi culture, they are providing the Hindi book. That is not at all related to their culture. They do not find their identity. Keeping aside this minority language, looking at the variety of the languages, like the Bangla I speak is quote unquote the Kolkata variety because I belong from Kolkata, and that is the probably standardized variety. So I cannot communicate very easily with my mother-in-law because the variety she speaks is very different, almost mutually unintelligible. But I can speak with my husband and all other people because they have learned the standardized Bangla in the school. So these are the so many problems where Article 29 or 30 talks about the right of the minority languages and culture, and then 351 is talking about promotion. And probably the conflicts come from in between right and promotion. So I do not know what would be the realistic solution of this situation. Just whenever I listen to such kind of discussion, all these pictures come in mind, which I wanted to share. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayesha.
Thank you. My name is Varghese. I used to be the Vice Chancellor of the National University. I'm not a linguist. I'm not a language specialist. And I don't like to see language as a language issue. I want to see this as a political issue. If you see the post-colonial development in many countries, we see that people who did not have any advantage in any one language was accepted as the national language or most popular language. I was doing some studies in Uganda and in Nigeria about the language. This was more at the higher education level. But why did you choose English as the language and medium of instruction from the school level in Uganda or in Nigeria? So the answer was that if you take any of the Ugandan languages, the 3 or 4 tribal languages which are one, he'll say that there will be bloodshed. Because people feel that this language is being imposed to others and that will lead to bloodshed. So to say that, so it's politically, it was correct to adopt English where nobody had any advantage. Everybody had disadvantage, or in other words, the disadvantage is equally distributed. That's also not true, because it's elite, it unites elites, So it is also, there's a political dimension to division of the language between the elites and the non-elites, the society. This is to be taken into account. If you look at India, also we see that the opposition to Hindi is not problem of learning Hindi. If people can learn English, why they cannot learn Hindi? So it's not a question of difficulties of learning Hindi, but it's a feeling, a fear, a lack of confidence in the authorities and in the process and the political processes which perpetuates inequalities, by which we feel that if Hindi is adopted, This will lead to the monopoly power of some groups of people from some regions, I think that is the main political message that we need to understand rather than saying English as language. Another thing is that now the demand for English is increasing. It's not because of the government alone, but we have become a middle class society. And one characteristic of middle class society is that they embrace markets.
Right.
And today the market embraces English. Previously English was a language of imperial. It's an imperial language. It's a language of the colonizers, especially in our part of the world. But that is not the case. Today it is a language of the market. It is a language of profession. It's a language of employment. It's a language of interconnectedness in the global world, And that is one of the reasons why. Say, Kerala was cited an example. But what is to be understood also in Kerala is that why the government schools were closing down. How many government schools are closed down? And how many teachers became unemployed in the real sense? Not their paid salary, but what is called as a protected teachers. Why? It is because one of the reasons is that there was a decline in the demographic position in terms of the decline in childbirth, but more importantly, there is a flow from the government schools to private schools with English medium schools, So that is one of the reasons. Now the government has reversed this policy in having English medium parallel places, and you find that government schools are also attracting students. As you rightly pointed out, in many places you find parallel system. So the rush for English medium is not by the government alone, but that is what the household or that is what the parents feel, that is what people feel, right or wrong, that the future lies there, and that is very important to see that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's true, but also how is English taught? I mean, is it at the cost of your language? That's not happening. And Kerala now in the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a lot of more students coming into government schools because the schools themselves, they've changed a lot. They're doing many things other than just what was being done. Yes, please.
I'm Sunil Gupta. From my experience of teaching French language for more than 20 years, I feel that teaching of foreign languages in schools and colleges is a waste. It's taught in a very horrible way, and even after studying for 4 years, 5 years, students can't say what my name is in that language, and it is taught only through the English. I mean, for learning, language is the enemy of that language, so it should be learned in that level only. So I'd like Ayesha to say something.
You see, I mean, well, if you ask, the Birhor child, Bangla is a foreign language too. I think that the problem is got to do with the pedagogy also that we learn it. Now, but I think why it's a particular waste. If people from elite middle class houses have dreams of going to Paris, right, and I'm sure that they will be vacationing in Paris, but they still can't learn this language in school. I think what it certainly does produce in me is great sympathy for the Birhor child who's trying to, who's not allowed to speak the language and show them. Now, the NEP actually removes foreign languages from the school, but mind you, it is not. I mean, Arabic and Persian are also, Farsi are also foreign languages in this framework. So, I think the right, if it's our three-language formula debate is about what are we going to teach content in. But the way that the northern states have worked it, either it's French, which is taught like a dead language, French or German, that's taught like a dead language, or it is actually a dead language, Sanskrit. That's the three-language formula. Because whether it is dead or not, for people is not the issue. It is taught like a dead language. We learn some conjugations. Now for foreign language teaching in schools, we've just extended the Sanskrit model. So it is not at all, the objective is not to really learn the language. As Apoorvanand said, it's about numbers. We learn it for numbers. Marks, that's it. I mean, it's not anything to do with the language. So I'm not in favor. I mean, maybe I would be very happy if people learned foreign languages, because this is a matter of choice, right? Learning a language is a matter of choice. And it's only in the third language in North India that seems like that there is a choice. But it's clearly to be denied to other people in the way that the policy identifies it. So maybe it shouldn't be taught.
Karthick, how the Sanskrit is taken in Tamil Nadu?
So there is no third language in Tamil Nadu. There is only two language. There are 2 or 3 schools that have identified as Sanskrit schools where students do go and learn Sanskrit as a Part B language. But that's very few.
Is it taken favorably?
Yes, there are textbooks even produced by the Tamil Nadu State Textbook Corporation in Sanskrit, but only for a very small group that wants to learn it. So whenever, so the Tamil Nadu's emphasis is not on Tamil but rather on mother tongue. So if someone wants to learn it in their mother tongues, then there are possibilities, there are avenues that are created for them. So the focus was on this child and the child's mother tongue and not on any extra language as such. So it's 1, which is your mother tongue, and 2, English or any other non-Indian language, but it has been in practice only English so far. There has been French for a while, but it is gone, I believe.
Has classical Tamil taught at all?
So classical Tamil, so the issue with Tamil is that when you're teaching Tamil, they don't make a distinction between classical Tamil and modern day Tamil. I start from learning Kurunduvai as early as class 3 or 4. So Kurunduvai is exactly Sangam poetry. I do Sangam poetry in my schools itself. So that sort of a learning to interpret Sangam Tamil is also part of my Tamil curriculum in school. So we don't make the distinction between classical Tamil and modern Tamil. So it's sort of an extension that you've learned. So it's actually to understand classical Tamil poetry, you need to learn how to interpret it. So that is taught within the Tamil fold itself and not a separate classical Tamil.
So truly not dead.
I was just wanted to react and forgive me for the harshness of the word. What you said that language is it's a political decision, and I think the problem is that the impression that I got is that what you were saying that yes, it's good that it is a political decision because there are lots of political ramifications about this, and my concern is that we are and to an extent the debate is also over here coming on the political issue, because we also need to look at the issue of pedagogy and look at it from the issue of child rights. And from a pedagogical perspective, it's very clear that the child has the right to choose the language of learning, because if you look at all the history of what people have been talking about, they're complicated. Everybody has a complicated language history. So, every child will be coming with that complicated history into the classroom. And what you had said, Ayesha ji, is that all languages need to be included in the classroom, with collaboration and mutual respect. So, I mean that seems to be getting lost in this entire...
That's also politics, and certainly that politics we should aim for.
Yeah, but it's politics based on rights.
Yes.
Is what I'm trying to say, rather than identity and representation. So I'm not trying to say that nothing is politics, but we need to also look in terms of on what basis are you putting those politics. And what I'm trying to say is that in this debate, or in the debate which is dominating, the rights of the child seems to be missing. And I do also remember, in all these conversations, there's also a document which I'm very fond of, which Anita ji would also be, is the NC of 2005, which acknowledged what you were talking about with some of the political economy of language and the recognition that even though pedagogically, you may need to have a focus on one language, looking at the needs of and the way in which aspirations are there, it saw a place for English. So. There's a need to be able to, rather than go on, some very black and white kind of a positions, there's a need to have certain amount of ease and, because we're talking about situations which in the classroom, which have to be played out in the classroom. So you need to be having that empowered situation in which the class teacher can take a lot of these decisions and be able to draw on a lot of resources to serve the
the language ecology that we might find in the classroom. So, I mean, I'm just trying to say that let's look in terms of rooting these politics into child rights and child-centered pedagogy.
Absolutely. Actually, education is politics. I mean, when you say that in the textbook, you just don't find your life or your, what your whole environment is. That's the politics. Whose knowledge comes into the textbook and whose doesn't. So that's what we've all been fighting for in the working in education, that it's even making a curriculum, what does that mean? And language is certainly a part of it. So when someone says that, you're not even allowed to speak your language when you're having a meal, that happens in Delhi also, in very, very well-known elite schools. You can't speak anything else other than English or you get fined. So this is a common thing that's happening, but I'm saying we have to fight back in the context, because yes, English, even earlier, I mean, English has, before independence also, we know that the Dalit fight for English and the Dalit fight for going to school was tied to English. They said this is liberating. We are not allowed to come into the traditional schools, the conservative schools. At least the British have given us one way where we have access to education. So I think we have to look at all the politics of inclusion, what it has meant, and also how do you teach English and how do you teach the mother tongue? What happens in a classroom? For us, that is really ultimately the test. We can say these things. We can say yes, okay, it's good. It's there. But what is the policy of the state? How does it look at this? And then how are teachers oriented? How are teachers really sensitized to this issue? And what does teaching and learning mean within the space of education? For us, that's the challenge. And certainly we know in principle and through research empirically that children who've learned in their first language, the reading and writing, and in a few years are confident, they learn English much better.
Yes.
And we know that for any second language. I mean, in Delhi University, I know that. In Sardar Patel, we have seen children learn Hindi first, and then they learn another Indian language. They learn Gujarati or Bengali or something, and they learn English after class 6. But there's a pedagogy. There's a transition which is planned. It's not just done in an ad hoc manner. It's done carefully. And when we worked with those children and said, write on anything, but write in both languages.
Yeah, exactly.
We could
That's
clearly
liberating.
see that their language abilities were so much better than another school where the children were pleading and saying, don't make us write in Hindi, but their English was totally textbookish. There was nothing original. There was nothing of them in what they wrote.
Right.
This was class 7. So we can see that how you teach a language and then how you teach the next language also, how it leads to your ability to express. We are stultifying, we are totally killing that ability, and we know now with multiple choice tests there's nothing left. For our PhD we have to take a multiple choice test, so you don't have to write at all, no expression required. I think we have to fight this now. We really have to make sure that things change. It's not just something in a document. We know that this document in 2019 said that Hindi will be compulsory. The National Education Policy draft said Hindi will be compulsory. As soon as there was a lot of noise, suddenly a second draft was produced overnight, which didn't say that. So everyone is careful. It's not just, people are not innocent with the politics. And I think if you're fighting for rights, then we really have to be much more conscious about how things work, where are they working, let's document that, how are schools working in their space, let's encourage parents, we need lots of discussions with communities.
Yeah, I would like to just... Carry on. No, I just wanted to give you an example. We are working with the Tamil DTA schools. Some of us were people from abroad, people from India, from FLU, Cambridge. And what we are not saying is change the medium of instruction. What we are saying is that let the languages of the child come into the kind of questions you ask. Because what you're trying to test is whether the child comprehended English. The desire to displace the medium of instruction, which we understand is politics, it's an aspiration of the parents that they want English education, but not that they know that that's not what's going to get the child a job. And it's actually learning English. Now, if you use the first languages of the child to scaffold comprehension, then you are going to be able to. But don't introduce first languages and only to get them out once English is learnt. Is my plea. Keep them in the school system. They are not helpers. They are languages they will develop. But the way that the vision we have in the NEP right now, which is I'm tired of reading all this promotional material where I'm told that this is a multilingual policy. It is not. Because one textbook is translated into 121 language, and based on your ethnicity, not your language choices. If you're Santali, you will be handed that Santali textbook and say now you will be happy with Santali, the translated one. And that is supposed to help learning. This is not what multilingualism is. It is really, these are elective choices that we make, the school system. And schools must not become a place for the endangerment of Indian languages, and which they are now, and more formulas will only endanger the 1650 languages of this country will be endangered by schools. So we must fight it.
मैं सिर्फ ये कहना चाहता हूँ आखिर में कि हमारी जितनी बातचीत हो रही है और अभी 2019-20 के बाद की नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी या न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी को देखते हुए 2005-6 में जहाँ बहस थी उससे बहस पीछे चली गई और हम ये उम्मीद कर रहे थे कि 2005 के 15 साल बाद ये बहस आगे जाएगी पेडागॉजी के लेवल पर भी और दूसरे स्तरों पर भी। उसको शिक्षा के मामले में उस बहस को आगे बढ़ाने की ज़रूरत है और लेकिन उसकी जो पहली शर्त थी अभी तक उस पर हमने पूरी बात नहीं की है और वह ये थी कि जो आयशा कह रही हैं और बाकी लोग कह रहे हैं कि आप बाकी जो जितने ज़ुबानें हैं उनको क्लास में आने तो दीजिए और पूरा जोर जो प्रोफेसर यशपाल का एक नारा था वो था समझ का चस्का लगने दीजिए। तो समझ पर ज़्यादा जोर होना चाहिए, वो पूरी तरह से हट गया है। डर क्यों है? डर इसलिए है कि आप बात तो कुछ और करते हैं लेकिन उसके फौरन बाद जब आपने कहा कि भारत विविधताओं का देश है और यहाँ अनेक भाषाएं पढ़ाई जाएंगी वगैरह वगैरह, लेकिन उसके फौरन बाद आप पिछले एक हफ्ते से जो बात कही जा रही है वो ये कि भारत में 1 नेशन 1 कल्चर होना चाहिए। तो अगर आपको उपराष्ट्रपति हर जगह ये भाषण दे रहा है और इस सरकार को जन्म जिस संगठन ने दिया वो हर जगह ये कह रहा है, तो फिर तमिलनाडु हो या कोई और हो उसका सशंकित हो जाना बहुत ही स्वाभाविक है। ये होने क्या जा रहा है? तो दोनों चीज़ें साथ नहीं चल सकती हैं। आप एक बार कहें 1 नेशन 1 कल्चर और दूसरी जगह कहें नहीं हम तो डाइवर्सिटी की बात कर रहे हैं, हम तो कोई इम्पोजिशन नहीं कर रहे हैं। तो दैट ब्रॉड फ्रेम ऑफ 1 नेशन 1 कल्चर इज लूमिंग large on whatever takes place in the sphere of education. That is what. Right.
Hello everyone.
My name is Parul and currently I am working in a Delhi government school and I teach English there. A lot of things have been said. I'd just like to add a bit to it that agreed that language is a political issue. It's a matter of policy. And child's right also, but it also is a matter of child's identity. Like ma'am rightly said, let us give space to other languages in the classroom. When we are imposing fines in a classroom that you should not speak in any other language, or like ma'am said, it is detrimental to the entire learning process, be that of sciences, social sciences, or any other target language that you have in your mind. And since I'm an English teacher, I'm all up for the fact that English helps middle classes meet their aspiration of growth. But I am teaching class 11 and 12 right now, and the children who are graduating from schools, in government schools, they do not know any language per se. So I'm sure that they're not going to get jobs based on what they're learning in the classrooms right now. So we need to look at that, and all the formulas, policies, aspirations, they're really not working right now.
Right.
So, and also it's a very sad state that the understanding of teachers of multilingualism in a classroom is bizarre. Translating a textbook or bringing videos in their languages No, giving space to their languages, cultures and identities in the classroom is what multilingualism talks about. Because their understanding of resources is also very absurd. So I think policy needs to be looked at, teacher training needs to be looked at, pedagogy needs to be looked at, and that is when we'll be able to give space to languages and a child's right also. Thank you.
And yeah.
I have a very straight question to my friend Karthick. That even when the India got independence, it was the Tamil Nadu which brought the language question in the center largely. And again, after the NEP 2020 has come, it is again Tamil Nadu where the language question, at least we have gathered here to discuss together. So many aspects have been debated, but one thing in my opinion, my friend Karthik has to understand that this time Tamil Nadu and Tamil language is really going to face that challenge जो हिंदी ला रहा है, क्योंकि मैं यहाँ PGDAV कॉलेज में इंग्लिश डिपार्टमेंट में पढ़ाता था. मैं तमिलनाडु नहीं जा रहा हूँ, मैं दिल्ली की बात से ये इस बात को, इस थ्रेट को, इस फियर को एक्सप्लेन करूँगा हिंदी में, क्योंकि मेरा फ्रेंड कार्तिक इज वेरी गुड इन हिंदी लैंग्वेज, नॉट द स्क्रिप्ट टू बी प्रिसाइज. PGDAV कॉलेज में मुझे इंग्लिश डिपार्टमेंट में जब नौकरी मिली, आई हैड द डिग्री इन MA in linguistics. माय टीचर प्रोफेसर आयशा इज सिटिंग हियर. आफ्टर 3.5 years, a major question in the department of English of one of the most prestigious English departments of this country, Delhi University arose, where Professor Rajkumar became head and Professor Anita became so-called the advisor to the head, and so many panels. Suddenly my name was chucked out from that ad hoc panel saying कि ये linguistics में किया है, he neither knows English nor Hindi or any subject at all. Suddenly after producing kind of helping some students grow, क्योंकि मैं linguistics में था तो मुझे एक बात की अंडरस्टैंडिंग थी कि language is not about dominance or hegemony or something. तो मैंने एक पेडागोजी नकल करके, प्रोफेसर आयशा का नकल मैंने किया अपने करियर में जब PGDAV पढ़ाता था, तो या प्रोफेसर मंजली सर का सब का नकल किया कि जो बच्चे इंग्लिश के कारण डरते थे, बैक बेंचर्स थे, तो वो पीछे बैठते थे, कोने में खुसुर करते थे. जो ब्राइट थे, सो कॉल्ड एज पारुली सेइंग कि सरकारी स्कूल के बच्चों को कुछ नहीं आता. आई स्ट्रांगली डिसएग्री विद दिस स्टेटमेंट, बट दैट्स नॉट, हर ओपिनियन इज नॉट माय सेंट्रल पॉइंट एट द मोमेंट. तो मैंने जब बैक बेंचर्स को आगे बिठाना शुरू किया और जो फ्रंट बेंचर्स थे, रिक्वेस्टेड देम, मोस्टली गर्ल्स, कि आप ऐसे भी एमिटी इंटरनेशनल स्कूल से पढ़े हो, बेस्ट स्कूल से पढ़े हो, आपको लेक्चर सुनना है, पीछे भी बैठ जाओगे, फॉर यू देयर विल बी नो हार्म. बट ये बैक बेंचर्स है, अगर ये 3 साल मेरे सामने आके बैठेंगे, मजबूरी में इनको कुछ पढ़ना पड़ेगा, कुछ सीखना पड़ेगा, कुछ बक बोलना पड़ेगा. एंड आई सॉ सम ऑफ माई स्टूडेंट्स मैसेज मी इवन टुडे ऑन एवरी 5th September हैप्पी टीचर्स डे, पर्सनल मैसेज फेसबुक में करते हैं, सर आपकी वजह से मैंने तीर मार दिया, धनुष मार दिया, पता नहीं क्या क्या कर दिया. सो लैंग्वेज के मामले में जब वहाँ पे इंग्लिश डिपार्टमेंट में डिबेट हुआ, आफ्टर दिस एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ मी इन द क्लासरूम विद माई स्टूडेंट्स एंड दोज टीचर्स हु नोज द लैंग्वेज डिस्कोर्सेस ऑफ द होल वर्ल्ड, वो कह रहे लिंग्विस्टिक्स का बंदा, इसको कुछ आता नहीं, इसको बाहर निकालो. एंड आई वाज रिमूव्ड फ्रॉम द इंग्लिश डिपार्टमेंट. और वहाँ पे जब मुकेश अग्रवाल थे, प्रिंसिपल थे PGDAV कॉलेज के, सरप्राइजिंगली ही वाज फ्रॉम हिंदी डिपार्टमेंट हु हैड written a very good book on linguistic discourses in Hindi, जो उन्होंने मुझे दिखाया. और उन्होंने भाई बहुत टॉन्टिंगली उन्होंने मुझे बोला, देख भाई धर्मराज, तू तो JNU का है, तू तो कॉमरेड है, तेरी कॉमरेड ही तुझे बाहर निकाल रहे, बिकॉज प्रोफेसर राजकुमार वॉज फ्रॉम JNU, तो somehow he wanted to like make fun of me, English department, everything. बट उन्होंने जो क्वेश्चन बोला, तो मैंने कार्तिक से डिस्कस किया इसको. मैंने बोला कि देख भाई, तुझे तेरे इंग्लिश डिपार्टमेंट में मैं तो एक्सेप्ट कर लूंगा, तू 20 दिन बाद भी एड हॉक पैनल में नाम जुड़वा के लिया, तेरा नौकरी इधर सेफ है. आई विल नॉट एडवर्टाइज द एड हॉक पोजीशन टिल यू रिफ्यूज कि तुम्हारा नहीं हुआ या हो गया जो भी है. तो मुझे लगा कि जो लैंग्वेज क्वेश्चन, व्हाट आई स्टडीड इन JNU, व्हाट आई एज ए ट्यूशन टीचर, एज ए स्कूल टीचर, एज ए कॉलेज टीचर, व्हाट आई एक्सपीरियंस्ड अबाउट लैंग्वेज, वहाँ तो कोई डाइवर्सिटी का स्कोप तो कहीं नहीं है. और प्रोफेसर अपूर्वानंद सर से मेरा भी ये सवाल है कि प्रैक्टिकली हमें कुछ आइडियोलॉजिकल बड़ी बातें करने का, जब हिंदी और तमिलनाडु में जाके 1956 की तरह फिर से तमिलनाडु में ये हिंदी का क्वेश्चन आया है, गलती से 2020 में 25 में हिंदी केरला में जाके फंसता, NEP 2020 आंध्रा में जाके फंसता, कर्नाटका में डिबेट हो सकता था that Karnataka started ramped up this controversy of Hindi opposition. Why Tamil Nadu even after so many years of independence? So यहाँ पे भी एक क्वेश्चन मेरे दिमाग में आता, और हिंदी के टीचर्स मेरे पूरे इशू में, लिंग्विस्टिक वाले इशू में, सारे लिंग्विस्टिक्स के जो मैटर्स थे, हिंदी से लेके इंग्लिश से लेके प्रोफेसर राजीव रे खत्म हो गया मैम. सो everybody surrendered, and then I understood the real importance of studying linguistics and doing MA in linguistics. मुझे नौकरी से भले ही निकाल दिया गया, but thereafter I really understood the fear of all those linguistic groups who are minority, who are in small numbers, how they will survive when I cannot survive in Delhi, being the student of JNU, being the ex-teacher of DU. How will these small linguistic communities will survive? So my question is to Karthick and to Apoorvanand.
I will take why Tamil Nadu again. So Tamil Nadu was even before independence, 1937. But we also forget the fact that Tamil Nadu was not alone, and Tamil Nadu was not the only one that was speaking about this. So one of the first one to bring the question of language within the Constitutional Assembly debates was not any Tamil representative. So the voice is also of the Totapara, who narrate to us the pain of not being able to understand what is happening in class till class 5. They have no idea what is happening in class. So Vidisha, and we know quite a few people who have gone to the field and exactly told the stories. So this is a pain that our voice could be expressing, but for us it's only a fear. But this is real pain for many communities that are being expressed and that are being expressed every day. Unfortunately, it's in a language that we don't understand, so we want to take over. Tamils want to take over. No, we don't want to. We are making it very clear that this is a question of mother tongue and it's not just about Tamil. So, and Tamil came out way before 1947. 1937 itself, the question was about mother tongue, and it was Madras presidency. We were very clear. Tamil in Tamil dominant areas in Madras presidency, and if there are any other minor languages, that should be also there. And in other provinces, like we had also Odia speaking regions within Madras presidency, there will be Odia, there will be Telugu. So the first language university was Andhra's Telugu University, way before independence. So the idea of having language central to a civilization is what India is, and I believe Tamils have been convinced about it for a long time. So that's the first question. And on linguistics, I don't think this is the forum to answer that, but I leave it to others to take it up.
No, I also think that it's important, and right from the beginning we said, what was the self-respect movement? What was the Justice Party? I mean, what was the politics of rights and self-respect that brought in language also? And that is now the question for us in many other contexts, but I think I would request people who are actually in teaching and learning spaces, if they could write, okay, Snehata, yes, I want more inputs, and people, if they can write even 1 or 2 pages and send to us, because we are part of this sectoral policy group here, and we do hope to bring some things of experiences. What is the pedagogical experience, and how do you look at this? We've had a good discussion, but now what is it, when you said teachers don't understand multilingualism, we know that, but then what does it mean? How is it that some things can work? And what is the experience that tells you that? Yes, Nina.
I'm Snehata, and I've been a teacher also for about almost 30 years. I used to teach English in a private school and then in a government school, and I've also done some research in second language, reading especially English at the senior secondary level. So just a few things. One, I find that there's a lot of confusion amongst people about first language, second language, and what is the dominant language, and it's actually very simple. The first language is the first language you heard when you were a child. It's sequential. A lot of people confuse first language with what is the dominant language. So my first language, I'm a Hindi speaker, I'm a North Indian. So my first language is Hindi, but in a lot of
my work, English is my dominant language. A lot of my academics has happened in English. So, but even though English is my dominant language, it's not my first language. So that's the first confusion.
Right.
Language is basically sequential. So that's something that I want, because gentleman here was saying 6 languages. The second thing I want to say is that when we are talking about school and classroom, what is important is how the child or the learner in the classroom understands the world. You know, how, in what, it's not one language that helps you formulate your world view. You know, it's all the languages that you have been exposed to. Migrant workers going from Bihar and UP to Kerala with their children going to schools in Kerala where they're learning Malayalam, they're speaking Bhojpuri, Maithili, Awadhi, whatever, in their homes to some extent, or even in the Nilgiris. I've seen so much construction labor coming from Bihar, you know. So the children are listening to those languages, they're learning English, they're learning Tamil. All these languages contribute in varying ways and to varying degrees. First, their worldview. Then comes the language of academics, reading and writing. So in schools, what we are now basically, the challenge is that the child or the learner in the classroom has all these languages in their heads, which flow in and out seamlessly in creating a worldview. Now you have to express that in a language which you may not be very strong in reading or in writing. How do we develop that, help the child or the learner to develop that ability? And that's where pedagogy comes in. Right. But for that pedagogy to work, first you have to respect the child's worldview. And that worldview can be very different from yours. And in most government schools, I've seen that the teachers come from a completely different class from where the children come. So that respect for the child and the child's worldview is usually missing. And no amount of teacher training, quote unquote, education really helps to bridge that gap. And that's something that we really lack. And we need to work on. So once you start respecting that this child has a worldview which has come from so many things, then you have to help the child, you know, develop their ability to express that worldview. But the pedagogy we follow is teaching to the test. And that's the next stumbling block. Board exam. CPSC board exam, I mean, terrible. Brilliant, quote unquote, NCF. Where did it fail? There was no coordination between NCERT and CBSE. You had good textbooks, you had good, content. Exam was the same.
Yeah.
And then you end up teaching to the test. When you're teaching to the test, you're not going to respect the child's worldview. You're teaching rote learning. You're teaching to write the same sentence structure, just change words. You know, so you ask the child, we have this research example of a teacher who did research in writing. Class 5 child, class discussion in class, कैसे school आते हैं? तो child actually comes by cycle, पर cycle लिखना नहीं आया तो उसने मिटा करके लिख दिया car, क्योंकि car लिखना आ गया. It's easy to write, you know, because the emphasis is on being accurate and correct. And these are our real challenges. How do we, inculcate this respect for learners who are coming from a different class? And therein, language is also a matter of politics and where we are not respecting the child. It's a matter of child's rights. And as long as we have the exam system which dominates, and the exam is centralized,
That's what you have to.
a pedagogy is not going to, help us find any answers. This is my experience of like 30 years, which is just very barely just sharing. Thank you.
Okay, so I think it's time for us to wind up, and I request people who have experience. We know what the experience is, but is there anything else that you can see, that you can give examples of, that help policy shift into meaningful ways? That is something that we look for. So I request people who are still engaged on the field, working in a classroom, teaching, if they can email to us or to Ayesha or to Apoorvanand or to Karthick, please send that to us. Thank you very much. Thank you.